Let's say we drink or we do drugs. A lot of people numb out with that, right? It's a way to cope with something else going on. Self-injury is the same. Shopping addiction, sex addiction, all of these are like ways to cope with something else. And an eating disorder is just part of that. And so the way that I look at an eating disorder is what's going on that, like, because yours is control. So my first question would be like, what in your life doesn't feel like it's in your control right now?
Everybody, welcome back to another episode of It Takes Grit. Today, you're going to be excited for this because you've been asking for it. Yes, we've got Kati Morton in the house today, who's a licensed therapist, who's going to be teaching us so many things about mental health, eating disorders, and how to get your mind straight. So thank you for coming. Yeah. You were requested.
I know. I was like, wow, I was requested.
Yes, you feel so special.
I do.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know who you are, like, can you just, explain to us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a licensed therapist and I have a mental health channel on YouTube. I specialize in eating disorders and self-injury work. That's what I do in my private practice. And I've been online for 8 years, just educating, answering questions, etc.
I love that. So you actually have a YouTube channel where there's so many questions that a lot of us have, and like we might not want to step into that of having a therapist or maybe asking a friend, but all of them are available on your YouTube channel. And I want them to know, what is your YouTube channel right now?
Kati Morton.
Okay, so Kati Morton, I'm going to put all the details in the link below. But you're going to get so much value from this episode because we're going to touch on things that are really close to your heart. So I want to kind of rewind and for the audience to find out why it was that you got started and how you are where you are today. So therapy, why therapy?
I liked it myself. I was in it. My mom encouraged us to go. I was about 15 years old. We started with family therapy. My dad and my brother were like, I'm out. I don't like this at all.
Did they do it?
They did it, but then my dad was like, I don't want to cry in front of a stranger. And my brother's like, I don't need to pay somebody to listen to me. And I was like, I love it. Can I keep going? Screw them. I want to go.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed it. And then I wanted to learn more about it. And so then I took a psychology class in high school, and from there applied to schools. And I was also in choir, so I applied for music and psychology, trying to find schools that fit. Just fell in love with it.
Wow. So it was just being exposed to something at such an early age, and it was like, that's what I want to do, is give back. And so is there anything in your life that you felt like I needed to go to therapy for, or you were just like, I feel great all the time?
Oh, no, I'm in therapy all the time. By and large, I think I do feel good, but I think it's because I take care of myself. And I have trust me, sometimes I need to go to therapy. It'll take me 6 months to actually go. So don't think that I'm like always doing just perfect. But I definitely, when I was in middle school and high school, like bouts of depression, just feeling like not good about myself. And I think part of that may be developmental, or it could just be it's in my family too. I'm, not 100% sure. So that was really helpful during that time. And then in college, my dad was getting really sick for a while. He ended up passing away. And so like kind of that buildup was really helpful to be in therapy. Like twice a week I went and it was free. So if you're in school, ask. It was
Oh, wow.
For like 2 years, free therapy.
And most people, I don't think, know that.
No,
that's available for them. Okay.
Yeah. And so it was wonderful. Rebecca was a great therapist, and I was sad when she retired. But it was really helpful. And then now, because our jobs can be really stressful, you guys know that, we all have stressful jobs, and working all the time, and I struggle with balance. And so my therapist is always like, get that in check. So I still go back every now and again. I'm not in it right now. I've been off for about a month, but
yeah. Okay, so it's like a check-in. It's like a good check-in. Like, exactly. Just because I feel like, we live in an age right now where we are stimulated by so many different things. There's comparison. We feel like, I felt like this. I'm like, I'm alone. I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm losing myself. And what I've realized is that everybody is going through the same thing at just a different, like maybe different time or different level. And you're not alone. Like, I think that's the biggest message that, I have for people in this space is like, we're not alone. We all have those days where we feel like, can I do this?
Yeah.
Like, can I be here? So I think it's so important to, have somebody in your life like you that you can check in with.
Yes.
And so what age range do you have people, of your patients?
My patients, I see primarily adults. Every once in a while, right now I'm actually only seeing adults, but every once in a while I'll see like a teenager that's like 16 to 18, right up on that cusp of being an adult. But it's a variety, to be honest. I think the thing that surprises people is in private practice, it's not like it's one type of person. I have like a 22-year-old male who has bipolar disorder, and a 36-year-old man who has schizophrenia. And then I have like a 21-year-old eating disorder, 50. There's all, it like mental illness doesn't care what you look like, who you are, where you're from, what you believe in. It doesn't matter.
Or how successful you are.
Yeah. It's not only people who are rich or poor or whatever. We all have a mental health. I think the thing is when we are struggling to just make ends meet, the basic, we call it the hierarchy of needs. I won't get too dirty on you.
No, that's fine. I love it. Let's go there.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Okay.
Our other things are met. We work towards what they call, I want to say it's like enlightenment. I don't really like that word.
Yeah.
But it's like when you try to figure out what your purpose is. And that's usually when we try to find therapies, like when the basics are there.
Yes.
A lot of people think, oh, that's just like a rich person problem. I'm like, no, it's a person problem.
Yeah. Totally.
Human condition.
And it really is the whole scale. And some people, you look at them and you think they've got everything. Yes. They've got the money, they've got the family, and then there's still something missing. And that's when it's not a judgment on like, okay, it's this type of person that needs therapy. Like we all have a heart, we all have a brain, we all have a soul. So, it really, you don't ever kind of like judging someone for maybe going into therapy or thinking like, why does that person need it?
Would you judge someone for going to see a doctor?
Right.
Like to get a physical?
Yeah, your brain is like,
it's like the
even more.
Of it.
Yeah. That's your brain and your heart is moving everything.
Totally.
We did a YouTube video together, guys. You've got to see it. It's awesome. And we kind of touched on like eating disorders because my audience knows that I've gone through an eating disorder in my teens, and for me it was like a control thing, and I liked getting thinner, and I liked having to go back to the doctor and them telling me like, hey, you've like lost another 2 pounds, and like in my head I would be like, yes, and to them I'd be like, oh dear, this. So like, talk us through, you see a lot of people with eating disorders, like talk us through how you work with someone who is struggling with that.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the person, but it doesn't, just so you guys all know, it doesn't matter if we're underweight, overweight, whatever kind of eating disorder we have, they're all the same. And I don't mean that to be like, oh, you're not individual, because a lot of people place a lot of value on their eating disorder and being unique.
Well, that's significance. A lot of people, one of their values is being significant.
Yes. Being different. This is my thing. You don't understand it. But the real truth about an eating disorder is it's a coping skill. So in the same way that we can, let's say we drink or we do drugs. A lot of people numb out with that, right? It's a way to cope with something else going on. Self-injury is the same. Shopping addiction, sex addiction, all of these are like ways to cope with something else. And an eating disorder is just part of that. And so the way that I look at an eating disorder is what's going on that, like, because you're just control. So my first question would be like, what in your life doesn't feel like it's in your control right now? Like what's going on? Like I have a lot of patients who their eating disorder started when their parents got divorced.
Right.
And people don't think that that's a big deal, but it's out of your control.
Yes.
And you have and your life feels thrown up, and like you might have to go to their house and their house, and how am I going to divvy holidays up? And it's stressful, and no one asks children how they feel and how to do that. And so that could be a reason. And I think a lot of people assume it's like vanity. It's not. It's just a thing for us to focus on instead of the thing that's hard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's so true. And mine was out of my control. I was being bullied. So that was my, I couldn't control like how they were acting towards me. And then it was a thing of significance. It was my identity. I was like, this makes me different. This makes me special. And it was a story that I was telling myself. Like, I don't need an eating disorder to feel special. I'm special just as I am. Totally. And so, when someone's going through these therapy sessions with you, are you taking them step by step? They're doing it. You're giving them an exercise to do or some homework, and then they come back, and if they've done that, you kind of move them through the process. Like, what's it like to go, if you've never been to a therapy session before, what's it like?
So at the beginning, it's kind of like a weird first date where I ask you a lot of questions about yourself. You know nothing about your therapist other than maybe like for instance, if I had a patient who was like, oh, my father passed away, I would probably disclose that I too lost my father, so they know I can understand. But other than that, you don't really know much about me.
Yes.
It's all about you. I'll ask, like, if you've been in therapy before, what brought you in? And then it's kind of like, I usually give homework. I'm a homework type therapist. Not all of them are, but I personally believe we need some follow-up because you're only in therapy for 1 or 2 hours a week.
Right.
How many other hours?
There's a lot. Yeah, you need some action steps.
Exactly. And that's just how I am. And that's the type of therapy. I do CBT and DBT, which is kind of more structured types of therapy.
Okay.
You can look them up on my channel if you want to know more about what they are. But I would ask what your goals are. And then we'd work backwards from that. So like, okay, if I had a magic wand and poof, everything was amazing and better, what would be happening? And then how can we work towards that?
Right.
Because I think therapy should always have goals. I think you should always have things that you're working towards, because the goal for me in therapy is for you not to need it anymore. You know, you feel good, you can leave.
Because then you know you've done your job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you've successfully launched out of it and you feel better.
And you feel like there is a solution for everything?
Yes. I mean, solution's a strong word. I think
there's a way that these challenges and struggles are ultimately able to be solved. Like,
yeah, like you can have tools so that you can better manage any symptoms you might feel. Yeah. Because the thing about mental health, just like physical health, just because we get over the flu once doesn't mean we can't get it again.
Totally.
So just because we've managed our depression maybe and we have tools, if we don't keep using those tools, it can come back.
Can sneak in.
Yeah. And so I think there are definite ways we can better manage.
Yeah. So the people that you're seeing, like, and I think we touched on the workout too about anxiety. Where do you feel like it's more now because of the environment that we live in with social media, or, you know, have we always struggled with anxiety like hundreds of years ago? Is it a natural human thing, or are we like just getting fucked because of social media?
It's kind of a little bit of both.
Okay.
But it definitely exists for a reason. If you think about anxiety being kind of like primal, if you were scared and very hyper aware, almost like fight, flight, freeze, right? We're like, oh my God, what's that noise?
Yes.
We would survive. So arguably we're alive because our ancestors were super anxious.
Yeah, right. Because we've got the men that would go out and do the hunting, and they've got to be aware. And then the women are waiting they're bearing the children and waiting and hoping that they're coming back. And then they could be anxious that they're not coming back. Yeah. So it is really it's a normal human emotion from forever.
Exactly. Totally.
So that's great. So if you feel anxious, like that's part of your DNA.
It's just being a person.
It's being a person. Welcome to life.
I know. The human experience. So joyful.
It's wonderful.
But I think when it comes to now, I think that we're seeing it more because of the amount of content that we're supposed to digest. And supposed to is like, I don't necessarily mean that we feel we have to, but just the amount of content coming our way.
Right. It's like you got to keep up.
Yes. And people are like, have you seen that show? And I'm like, there are too many shows. I'm tired. Like, you know, I don't have time to binge episodes. Or like Instagram, like sometimes I follow people that I really truly care about and know. And I'm like, well, I don't want them to think I'm not noticing them. All sorts of ridiculous things. And that's pressure I put on myself. But it's just, I think it's that environment of comparison and constant content that can be a little overwhelming.
So how can you, in this crazy world that we live in right now, is it limiting yourself on social media? Is it like, how do you deal with anxiety, or how can you kind of breathe through it?
When it comes to social media in particular, I think taking time off from it. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, that gives me anxiety thinking about it. But yeah. No, it's funny because I've been away for like the last like 3 weeks. I was in Florida and I was so immersed in what I was doing. I didn't even look at my phone. Even my team, when I came back, they were like, we didn't know if you were alive. Like, we've never not seen you like that, like not active. And like hours would go past. And I realized that life isn't going to fall apart if I'm not on social media.
Exactly.
It was like a wake up call. And I was like, my team is going to do a great job without me. They're probably better without me. They're like, just leave. We're doing fine. Leave us alone.
We can totally manage this.
Yeah. Not me breathing down their neck. Like, have you fucking done this yet? So yeah. I mean, when you're feeling anxious, like, do you recognize it in your brain and are like?
Yeah, I notice it most at night because if I'm trying to sleep and like my brain is racing with like, oh, you should have done that. Oh shit, you didn't reply to that person. Oh my God. Like you go through all of that stuff. And if I notice that, I do because I like guided meditation. I know it's not for everybody. Somebody just probably rolled their eyes and they're like, ugh. But it helps me to be like, I go to a happy place. So I'm like on a beach in Costa Rica and I'm floating in the water and my ears are below the water so I can't hear anything. I do that in my mind. I'm like, it's going to be okay. You know, and I kind of talk myself down. Sometimes that works. Sometimes I have to actually put in like headspace or something like that to calm me. But there's a lot of tools we can use. For a lot of people, like breathing exercises work. For a lot of people, it doesn't. Some people need to like, you know, medication is helpful. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but sometimes it's hard. Like we're having panic attacks a lot. Anxiety is just super common and everybody's a little bit different. But if you track those anxious thoughts and you recognize what triggers you have, then you can better manage those triggers. Right. Meaning if you know you have a really stressful day, then we don't interact with that one person that tends to stir us up. So yeah, just kind of take note of what causes it for you and then you can better
Yeah, totally. So going back to social media, it's like, is it limiting your time? Is it just following people who you're not comparing yourself with too?
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of time we follow people that we're like, I want to be like them.
I totally didn't answer that part.
No, I went back into the other one. See, my women's brains were like this.
All over the place.
Yeah. But we always figure it out.
We do. We find our way back. I think, yes. So there's a couple of things. Noticing who we're following and what we're digesting. And I always tell people, like, when I unfollow even people that I know, I'm like, it has nothing to do with you. It's all about me. Because like some people that I love and care for are like always on vacation and have like looks like beautiful life. And I know them. I know that's not true. But when I see it, I feel bad. And it's me making that judgment on myself. And it's my reaction. And so I'll mute people. I'll unfollow people. It's not personal. It's about me and my own mental health. And then taking like nights off every so often, like just to connect. Like when you go out to dinner, like don't have your phone out.
Yeah. You don't need it.
No, you're there with somebody in person. Like I can text you while talking. So make time for that. Make sure that that's happening in your life. And I think by doing those two things, you'll start to feel better, because the main reason I think social media gets a bad rep is because of the comparison factor. Like one of my favorite quotes is, comparison is the thief of joy. And so we can't enjoy. Oh, there's a squirrel. I love squirrels. Sorry. I was like, ooh, he's so cute.
Here he is.
But so, if we aren't giving ourselves those things to compare to that feel so out of reach or not, we just don't have access to that. We remove that, then we're with a group that builds us up, makes us feel better. Then it's not comparison anymore. It's just shared joy.
Yeah. So for you, you're on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. Like, how do you manage that?
I limit it.
Yeah.
Like some people probably notice, like I'll be on Twitter for a little while and then like a few days I'm just not, because Twitter is just such a shit show.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I try to do, I'm not perfect, but I try to do things with purpose. So like I like Instagram personally.
Yeah.
But I don't follow a ton of people, and I follow people that I enjoy and I learn from. And if I find myself being like, I unfollow. Right. Again, it's my problem. It's about me.
That's amazing that you're so like admitting that too. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I just would never say that. But like, it's a strong thing to be like, hey, you know what? Like, it's not you, it's me. Yeah. Like because it's not them. No, because you're like, hey, fuck you. Like, you're like this. And it's like, no, that's your problem with them. They're doing what they need to do.
They can't make me feel a certain way.
No, you're choosing. Yes. You are choosing to feel that way.
I'm having that reaction and I'm not able to control it right now.
So let's take it away.
I'm just going to mute for a while. Maybe I'll come back. Yeah. So, I'm always checking in with that.
That's a really strong point. And I mean, how important is workouts for your mental health? Like how important is exercise or just moving your body?
Yeah. Moving your body is very important. I think we live in a world where it's like, it's supposed to be perfect. Like I'm sure you struggle with this too as a fitness person, right? Like people expect workouts and the people who work out to look a certain way. Everybody has a different body. However you want to move your body in a way that feels good for you, I support.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it is imperative to my mental health and to my ability to do other things. Like I got sick for all of November. I haven't been sick in like 3 years. Praise whoever. It was a beautiful 3 years. But then I was like, whack, like hit with it. And I couldn't work out because I wasn't feeling well. And it was towards the end of it, I told my husband, I was like, I don't even feel like myself. Like I tried to stretch the other day and was like, like my body was just, And so for me, it's part of who I am and what I need to do. But I also have to listen to my body and, but it does release feel good hormones, and feel good chemicals. And endorphins are a real thing.
Even if you just like are feeling like that and you just stand up and stretch your arms over the head and you jump up and down a few times, like it's science that it will change your physiological state. Because half the time, like one of my mentors used to do this, and like, I'd get like frustrated, right? And then I would go like get crazy and start crying, and it would be because I'm like this. But he would make me dance, like in his office. I'd be like, oh God, I got to dance, and he'd be like shake your body, move, and you can't help but smile and laugh when you're like you're embarrassed, you're dancing. But just that feeling of like dancing and moving your body like changes your whole physiological state. So you're in a better state.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's really important that we all move, especially because so many jobs are sedentary now.
Yeah. So what workouts do you love doing?
I love yoga personally. And then I was telling her earlier, like when we were doing our workout, when I travel, I use YouTube.
Yeah.
And I try different HIIT workouts and different stretches, especially if I've been on a long plane ride. I do like the stretches.
Yep.
Do different lunges, anything.
Yeah.
Whatever I can fit in. If I have 10 minutes, I'll do 10 minutes. If I have 20, I'll do 20.
Yep.
I make it work for me, but yoga is my favorite.
And hot yoga. Okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing yoga for?
Hot yoga, not as long. My favorite studio closed last June.
Oh no.
And so hot yoga was the closest and the most reasonable cost.
Okay.
So I switched over. But I've been doing yoga since I was in grad school. So I was like 22. Yeah, long time. I'm 36, so do the math.
Some years. Some years. Yeah. You stop counting. I turned 31 this year. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what day it is.
People ask. I'm like,
let me just count that.
Yeah. I feel like I'm 23. What does that mean?
Yeah. Inside. Yeah. So what about nutrition? Because, what we feed our body, what we feed our mind is what we feed our body is like how we look and feel, right? Yes. I feel like nutrition for me has been a game changer in how my 100%. Brain works.
Yes. And I think part of it, well, there's a few things. So I'm an eating disorder specialist. So there's this line. I work with nutritionists who specialize in eating disorders. That's how I refer my patients out. I'm not a nutritionist. But the thing that I want everyone to remember about food is that our body is intuitive. It tells us. It tells you when you're hungry. So you eat when you're hungry, you stop when you're full. And if you're craving something, you have it. Because once we tell ourselves we can't, then that's all we want. So and also I tell my patients, there's no good and bad food. There's just food.
Right.
But our body, I'm not going to lie, you guys, when I travel, sometimes I'll eat total shit. And my body will be like, I want some vegetables in me, something crunchy, and I'll crave it. And so I think it's just listening to that. If you struggle to listen to that, working with a dietitian or nutritionist is beautiful.
What if you're saying that you're craving a certain type of food every day? Do you feel like if you give in to that or you do that, that's healthy?
Yeah, I think it's okay. Because the thing that's funny is even
if it's 2 bars of chocolate, 2 things of biscuit, because you'll get sick of it. So there's an end.
Yes,
I see. So the craving won't last.
No. And people are afraid of that. If I give in, then that's all I'm going to eat. And I'm like,
right.
How many French fries can you eat? You'll start to feel a little sick. Or how many salads can you eat? We get sick of food. I do I'll try to meal prep a little bit so that I have food that's available. Yeah. So I don't wait till I'm starved and then be like, and so after 3 or 4 times of eating it, I'm like, I don't want that anymore. And that works for all types of food.
Right.
But if you find yourself struggling with binge eating and you just overeat until you feel sick, that's when you need to reach out to a therapist or a dietitian, because that's a different mindset. It's not really about the food and eating when we're hungry, stop when we're full. It's that coping again.
Right. Totally.
Into that.
So what if somebody is overweight and they have a heart problem and their life is in danger because they're eating the wrong foods?
Yeah.
What do you do then with cravings? Are you still saying, yes, eat all of that food?
Yes. I mean, at that point, if it's a medical condition, unfortunately, when it comes to what I do, I put them in a hospital.
Right.
And it's not like I force them against their will.
Yeah.
But I refer them to, because before I see a patient, because I see people on outpatient, which means they're in my office for an hour or two, then they go about their life. I don't have the capability to handle such high needs person.
Okay.
So I get them checked out by a doctor. I have to get all their blood work and stuff, make sure everything's okay. If I can see them, if not, then I refer them to a day program, a hospital, something. So for someone like that, because I have people with heart conditions all the time, to be truthful, that's the one thing, and sorry to ramble.
No, this is great. But this is not an easy question.
No, because with eating disorders, things people don't realize, when we get underweight, our body starts eating muscle for energy. And our heart is a muscle. And so heart attacks are one of the most common side effects of eating disorders, and something that I worry about a lot. And I've had patients have heart monitors on. And so that's something that we would check out, see if they're able to even be in their regular life, or if they need a higher level of care, like a hospitalization day program. And then on the other side, so if we binge and purge a lot, the thing about purging, meaning throwing up or using diuretics, anything like that, laxative abuse, that can affect our electrolytes and our potassium levels. And potassium makes our muscles work, if you don't know, and it can cause a heart attack again.
Yes.
So heart, when you said that, I was like, it'd be a higher level of care.
Right.
And so, yes, they'd probably still work with them on cravings and managing, but a lot of that has to be, it's almost relearning how to feed ourselves, because we're not using food as a way to nourish. We're using it as a coping.
Yeah. And food really does. I mean, you just said like when you travel, sometimes you eat like shit and like you feel like shit.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like, there's been days when I've eaten like shit and I'm like, oh, that's a wake up call. I don't want to feel like this.
No,
you don't really actually like vegetables and that actually make you feel good. Because like the other food makes you feel good from here up.
Exactly.
It's just taste.
Yes. And that's why I think it's okay to give into it sometimes, but one meal is not going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's not going to ruin. You're not going to wake up 70 pounds heavier.
Yep.
It's really about like listening to your body, eating a balanced diet, meaning sometimes you have a Snickers bar, sometimes you have a spinach salad, sometimes you have a chicken breast, whatever your diet, like it's going to be well-rounded, and overall then you'll feel well.
Right. So having that balance of, that giving into those cravings when it's habit, but and also does it depend on what goals you want? Because if you have a goal of like, maybe one of your top values is health, and you want to set an example for children.
Yeah.
Is that important? Do you feel like sometimes if you want to set a good example to your children to eat healthy,
I think
rather than binge it, just again, balanced. Okay.
Because kids, by and large, most of my eating disorder patients had parents with weird food stuff.
Right.
But I would call it like disordered eating / eating disorders, where it's like, oh, we don't have sweets, or we don't eat fried food, or we only eat locally grown, or
organic.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And the more we talk to our children about like fullness, hunger, all food being equal, children are the most intuitive eaters. There's no judgment. You'll see them, even if you give them a cupcake, they'll maybe eat the frosting off, and then they're like, that's all I wanted. They don't eat until they feel sick. Sometimes I know children will binge on candy after Halloween and get sick, but by and large, they just eat what they want, leave the rest. And so I think the more we talk about it, and like vegetables are important, it needs to be balanced. Children don't always like the taste of certain things.
Yeah.
But yeah, honest conversations with our kids about food and showing a well-rounded diet, I think is very important.
Yeah. Cool. So what is next for you? We talked about a little bit about the grit of a book that you are writing, written, done. Where are we at?
It came out, when we're recording this.
Yes.
It came out a year ago yesterday.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Why was it so hard?
Well, first of all, for people who don't know, books are totally different than like digital space. So in digital, we decide we want to do something, we do it, we make it happen.
It's boom. It's up next. It's up the next day.
And we edit it, it's out. With books, mine's nonfiction. Fiction's a little bit different, but with nonfiction, I had to put together a proposal, meaning this is what I want to write about. Here's the chapters, blah, blah, blah. Here's a sample chapter.
Yep.
So you got to like write part of it.
Right. Yeah.
And then it took me and my literary agent 2 years to sell it to the right publisher. Because a lot of people wanted to turn it into something I didn't want it to be. Wanted to be mindfulness. I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like, how do I get help? What is it like? It's called Are You Okay? A Guide to Caring for Your Mental Health.
Okay.
So it's where do we even start? And so once that was sold, then you have to write it. And it was the most energy out. I was totally burned out. In all honesty, I should have taken better care of myself. But I took all of January off last year after it came out. I went home, stayed with my mom, slept 12 hours a night.
Because you were exhausted from the book coming out, or just the whole thing. So how long did it take from finishing the book to it being out?
I turned in the manuscript in March, and it came out in December. But in between there's like 5 rounds of edits.
Yeah.
Where you're like, wow, do I even know how to speak English? I don't think I do.
Yeah. Someone just red lines through everything. You're like, well, fuck, just take it.
Here. What's a semicolon? Nobody understands. And then doing the audiobook, I did my own, and all of that. And then the promotion and the videos and the all that stuff. I was just wiped.
Right.
And so it took me 6 months to write it. So it started back, let's say like September, October, I started writing all the way through March, and the manuscript coming out or turning that in. And then coming out in December, it was just like a full, almost like a year.
Yeah. That's incredible. So, and you felt like that was the grittiest thing, like it just took everything out of it. Was it because you were pouring your whole soul and heart into it?
Yeah. And just the energy, like, because when I want something to resonate. I want it to feel good. I want it to, to write a book is like crazy to me. The fact that I wrote a book, I'm like, how'd that happen?
Did I do that? Was that me? Is that my name on that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of surreal, but I really wanted it to be helpful. And I wrote it all myself, which no offense to people who don't. I know not everybody's a writer, and I didn't think I was a writer. So it took a lot of focus, a lot of research, a lot of energy. And I wasn't balancing very well at that point.
What's your favorite part of the book?
The toxic relationship.
Oh, okay.
Because I think first of all, just so you all know, I had so many personal stories to share. I was like, which toxic relationship would I like to talk about?
I have a whole category for you.
So yeah. I'm no better.
Okay, so you've been in a lot of toxic relationships.
Yeah. And also like one of my friends has a good quote that I share in the book about like, it's not always one person or the other. Like you're bad, I'm bad. It's just a bad recipe. And I think keeping that in mind when you consider toxic relationships, it just isn't working. And a lot of them romantic relationships that just were bad, or friendships that ended. And I think that for me, it was the easiest chapter to write and hopefully the most helpful because we all have relationships that need tending to, and it can be, I don't know. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. So tell me one of the relationships that you were in that you felt, or if someone is in a toxic relationship right now, how do they, sometimes I feel like, is it toxic or is it not? You know, like how do you identify that when it's like, maybe I'm just not showing up the best I can because I know for me, I've been in relationships where I haven't shown up.
Yeah.
And then I blame the other person and I'm like, I'm in a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Rather than it being like, hey, like maybe if I showed up more.
Yeah, and you have to talk to yourself. Like you have to have that conversation. I think one of the most common misconceptions about relationships in general is that they have to be lifelong. And I know that that's hard for some people to accept because we think, oh, people always say, oh, my friend from kindergarten or from middle school, or, you know, I've known this person forever.
We've invested so much time.
Exactly. But we change and grow. Thank God. That's like how I make money in general. It's like my whole job is to prove that we can change and grow. And I think that with that can come a division of growth, right? Somebody wanting to go a whole different direction that fits them and you're going a whole nother direction. And I think that's also why like marriages take work because where they're expected to be lifelong and but you have to choose to grow together. So I think it's okay for relationships to end.
Yeah. So if someone's out there right now, they're like, oh, I don't really want to be friends with this person anymore, but I feel so mean or how do I break up with my friend? Yeah. But when we're deep down in your gut, you probably know that it's right. So how did you do that with that friend? And how long were you friends for?
We were friends for like 15 years.
Okay, so 15 years, that's a considerable amount of time. And so what was the first thought that you were like, this isn't right?
Yeah, we had a small conflict and it wasn't like a big deal, but it was like a disagreement about how something should be dealt with. And we had another friend in the middle. It was very complicated. I don't want to get into like nitty-gritty details.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I didn't like the way that they were talking about this person in this situation. And I didn't want to have to be part of that anymore. And so it wasn't really a discussion of like, I don't think we can be friends anymore. It was more of the fact that we got into an argument and I just said, I think we just need to take a little break. So we didn't talk for a while. And then she wanted to get together. So we met up for lunch and it was kind of weird.
Like awkward, uncomfortable.
And I remember thinking at that time, like, I don't know if this is right. And so the kicker for me was I came home to my husband and I was like, yeah, I apologize for being rude. I'm an over apologizer. I'm working on that in therapy. Don't worry. Because that's like my own issue. But I was like, yeah, I apologized. And, you know, I think things could get better. And he's like, oh, did she apologize? And I was like, no. And he's like, has she ever apologized to you for anything? And I was like, no.
Ding! Mind blown.
And it was such a random thing for him to say.
Yeah.
But then I looked back on the whole relationship and it like jaded the whole thing where I was like, wow, she just does what she wants. And like I'm not like, she's not wrong. We're just different.
Yes.
That's not healthy for me as an over apologizer. Of course I'd find myself in relationships like that. But I was like, you know what? I don't think I want those relationships anymore.
Right. So what did you say?
So she wanted to get together one more time. And I just said that I was busy.
Was that true?
It was actually true. But then I was like, I'll reschedule when I feel up to it. And then I just never rescheduled. And we just honestly have not communicated. And I know that people, like the therapist to me is like, oh, you should have had a real conversation. You should have said like, these are the reasons. But I think we both just changed and grew and it's okay, you know? And I don't really feel like I need to, because I don't want to fight. But for those of you who are in a closer relationship, I think it is okay to say, I just want to take a break.
Yeah.
And you can make it about yourself. Don't make it about them. Say like, I'm trying to work on myself. Because that's what I did say originally. I was like, I'm really busy right now and I'm trying to make sure I'm making time for self-care. And she lives on a whole nother area of Los Angeles. And I was like, to get all the way over there. I don't want to put you out and to come all the way over here. And so I just have to take care of myself right now, and I'll get back to you when I feel better. And so you can say things like that because that's the truth, but you have to make it personal.
Yes.
If you blame, then it's going to cause a fight.
Yeah, you can't, and then they're going to get defensive, and it's not.
Exactly.
You can only change yourself anyway.
Yeah.
How long has that been now since you haven't spoken?
I think 2 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then maybe when you feel the time is right, you might reach out. But it just depends how you feel. Or she might reach out.
Exactly, because there's no bad blood. I'm not like angry.
Yeah.
But it's strange because I thought I'd like really miss her and want to know how she is, and I surprisingly don't. And I don't really know. I've been trying to think about that and talking about it in therapy. Like, what does that mean? Is it because I just don't care? Is that me being rude, or is it just maybe the relationship took its course?
Yeah,
it's ran its course.
Yeah. So what is coming up for you next? What's 2020? I feel like 2020 is like got such a cool ring to it.
I know, it's crazy.
So cool. We're literally going into a new century. Like so rad. So tell me, like, what's coming up for you next year?
Maybe another book.
Okay.
I'm working on the proposal now.
Yes. And what's that? Are we able to talk about why that one's different?
It's about trauma. Because I think by and large, we have all been through some traumas, and it's important that we talk about them in a real way. So it'll be a hard book to write, but a very cool and hopefully helpful book to write.
Yes.
And then I'm doing different things on my channel now where instead of just doing one-off videos, I'm trying to do little series where I like dive deep into a certain area. And so I'm just trying to plot those out more. I went down to 1 video a week, which I know sounds crazy for a lot of people. Like, I've been doing 1 video a week. I was doing 2, and then for a while I was doing 5.
Yeah.
Crazy. So it's given me more space to like plan things out. So I'm excited to put together the slate for 2020.
Yeah.
And then just really dive in.
That's really exciting. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. There's so much value there. Where can they find you to find more of your incredible information?
All over social media, just Kati Morton, KATIMORTON.
Perfect. Well, we're going to put all of those links in the description below. Make sure that you head on over to all of Kati's things. Go give her a follow, give her a thumbs up, and send her lots of love and light your way. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of It Takes Grit. Stay strong, stay healthy, stay confident, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
If you're looking back and you're like, oh, I can't believe that I did this. I can't believe that I did this to myself, or this is such a stupid mistake. Like, you did what you felt was right in the